Greetings. Welcome to MCBC's Lost Summer Cycling Celebrity Podcast, live stream, whatever you want to call it, web show. We're in for week 4, and today we've got a special one, longtime Marin County resident, Marin Falconer. Say hello, Cameron.
Hey, folks.
There he is. We're joined also by my sidekick co-host, Caroline Diesendorf. Caroline's the Director of Communications at MCBC, and she's got a word or two to say to you before we begin the interview with Cameron. Hey, Caroline.
Hey, welcome everybody. This is week 4 of Lost Summer, and we are really excited to be here, really excited to be joined by Cameron. Just a reminder, this is a fundraiser for MCBC and for COVID relief efforts in Marin County. So when you go to our website, marinbike.org/lostsummer, and enter our giveaway for some awesome prizes, including a Specialized Diverge Pro Carbon donated by Mike's Bikes. You are contributing to support Marin County Bicycle Coalition, as well as 25% of the proceeds are going to Canal Alliance and West Marin Senior Services. So please make sure, if you haven't already entered the drawing, to do so. And just real quick, a huge shout out to the sponsors for the series, Dolan Law Firm, Bay Area Bicycle Law, The New Wheel, and Marin Cyclists,
among many others. Well, we're lucky to have them. Thank you, Caroline. So let's get down to our guest, shall we? Marin Falconer, a longtime resident of Marin County. He is a bike racer. He's an all-around ripper. Some would say, I'm sure you'll shudder at this moniker, a soul rider more than a racer. But also now he enjoys a fine career, a well-esteemed career as a custom frame builder with Falconer bikes, of course, or Falconer cycles. Cameron, hello. How are you doing today, man?
Doing well. It's 100 degrees here, but at least I'm not outside.
Well, I should point out you no longer live in Marin County. You live up in Quincy. Is that correct?
Correct. My girlfriend Sarah and I moved out of Marin County about 4 years ago now. I was a lifelong resident before that.
Lifelong, and at the ripe old age of?
I'm 40.
40. You know, see, that's funny. I've been asking around about you. I think we initially met in 1998. You were about 17 then?
I would have been 98. I would have been 17 or 18. Yeah, I was talking to Sarah. I was trying to figure out when I met you. I thought it was a little later, but it could have been that early.
I do remember when we met. You needed a ride to DFL Cyclocross Dresser Series at Golden Gate Park, and you needed a ride, and I had 3 bike racks on top of my car, and you were racing cross back then, weren't you?
Yeah, I raced cross for 21 years. I don't anymore.
Well before it was
I stopped. Cool. I guess it was always pretty fun. I don't know if before it was cool, but
that's probably what was cool. You were like, Cameron was part of my introduction to cyclocross in the Bay Area.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember when you turned up and you were going fast immediately. Yeah.
For the uninitiated, we should explain, cyclocross was a predecessor to, well, most riding as it is now, but it was before gravel bikes. Cyclocross bikes were the gravel bikes, and we used to have to explain to folks why our narrow-tired drop bar bicycles had knobbies to start with. Cameron, you were always pressing. You were already bike packing back then, weren't you?
I mean, I think it's called Cyclo Touring, but yeah, I was can't remember the first year I did a bicycle tour. It's probably 98, 99, probably with Rick Hunter Cycles. Yeah, I did a fair bit of bike touring for a bunch of years there, and can't say I've done much lately, but yeah, it's still near and dear to my heart and something I pretty well enjoy.
So tell us about cyclo touring out of Marin County. What was the first attraction for you, and what were your favorite places to go?
Well, I mean, I think it's the cliche of, being able to put all your stuff on your bike and leave, and it's pretty freeing in that way. You can go where you want, kind of camp where you want, as long as it's legal land. And I did a bunch of trips with, like I mentioned, Rick Hunter from Hunter Cycles and a few other people over. We would do a trip every year in the spring, and we would generally do those down in Central California, like leave from Santa Cruz or Watsonville, Big Sur, all sorts of crazy places. The Carrizo Plain, which is this incredible spot where the San Andreas Fault goes through in Central California, inland. yeah, there's just a lot of the planet that you can see pretty well on two wheels, as pretty much everybody watching this already knows. But yeah, the bicycle touring part of it's pretty neat because just slows your brain down being out there for days on end, and things just get real clear.
Get real clear. Definitely nothing gives you time to think, like turning the pedals, that repetitive motion, and all the fresh air. Talk about slowing your brain down, though. 100-degree temperatures. You're not doing any cyclo touring right now because you.
No, I've mainly been sweating in my shop and knocking off by about 3 p.m. because it's pretty miserable at the moment. I'm gonna go swim after this.
Well, that's a nice segue for us to talk about your work in the shop. You began building bikes quite some time ago, and you mentioned Cyclo Touring with Rick Hunter, who's a longtime frame builder, and you had a lot of influences. What was the catalyst or inspiration for you to start building your own bikes?
So I'll make this short because it's not that interesting, but essentially I'd known custom frame builders when I was pretty young. There was a guy in Marin County named Steve Dix, who's now a race car mechanic, and he made some bikes for a few years, and I got a custom cross bike from him, I think when I was 17, because he was a buddy, and so I knew what a custom bike was, and then I ended up learning the trade from a guy who's in Point Richmond. His name's Ed Litton, and he is still around, still makes really incredible stuff, does incredible paint. He's sort of like, he's not real well known, but he was a compatriot or similar age group of Bruce Gordon and Brent Steelman, Albert Eisentrout, sort of like the people who made frame building in Northern California really happen starting in the 70s and 80s. So I learned from him and then never really did much with it because I didn't necessarily think it was a great way to make a living. And I went on and did a bunch of other random stuff with my life. I'd been a bicycle mechanic since I was 17. And a bunch of years later, probably 2007, maybe 8. No, geez, I don't know, time flies. I got a job in a metal shop in San Francisco and learned how to TIG weld. After I learned how to TIG weld, I figured I would make a couple bikes for myself, had access to a frame jig through a friend, and long story, slightly longer, ended up doing it full time after a few years of messing around with it, and then was tired of my job in the metal shop and had a little corner of another shop to myself and started accumulating tools, and all of a sudden I was self-employed. And that's been, I think it's been 8 years. I'm not totally sure. Maybe longer.
So
it's funny. You're sort of a timeless character because you've been such an anchor in Marin County and now up in the hills. You seem like you've been around a lot longer than 40 years. But it's interesting that you say you didn't think that custom frame building was a viable profession. And when you were talking about the 90s, there's still a lot of steel bikes. You mentioned Ed Litton and Brent Steelman. I have a Litton painted Steelman on a hook right next to me right now.
Yeah, I remember your Steelman.
Yeah, and Brent got out of it a few years back because the materials have changed a lot, and you continue to build in ferrous based frames. And why is that?
I mean, steel bikes have had a bit of a resurgence. Even in the more mainstream world, there's a fair number of people cruising around on Surleys and Salsas and all that. But in the custom world, I think, and I don't totally know here, I'm off the top of my head, what I've seen is that there are so many people that ride bicycles now compared to, when I first got into bikes in 92, and I think it's a diverse enough crowd, at least interest-wise. It's still obviously very white and very male, unfortunately, but there's a diverse enough crowd where people still find steel relevant, and a lot of people have never ridden a good steel bike because they got into the sport much later and all they knew was carbon because that's what the industry's been pushing for the last 10 years.
Okay, so wait, what's a good steel bike? I mean, just explain what that means.
Okay, good question. No, it's important. Steel bicycle being a bicycle where the frame is made out of steel. The steel that bicycles are made out of is not the same kind of steel that, say, the Golden Gate Bridge is made out of. It's a more high performance alloy that came out of aerospace. So like a lot of good things in this world, a lot of stuff came from aerospace, fancy materials and all that. So
I think
yeah,
people
I
have
make,
perception that they're going to be like super heavy and clunky, and like your bikes are,
they're not. I mean,
yeah.
they're heavier for sure. I mean, compared to an aluminum bike or a carbon bike or a titanium bike, that's the heaviest of the materials. But when you break down the pie chart of why a bicycle weighs what it does, and if you have a 2-pound carbon frame or a 4-pound steel frame, you're dealing with 2 pounds. And if it was going to be a 17-pound bike, it's now a 19-pound bike. It's not like we're talking about, Schwinn varsity stuff from the 70s or, stuff made out of gas pipe. So yeah, modern steel tubing is, it's a legitimate performance material. It's not just for, old weirdos who want to ride toe clips and wool jerseys. And, it's the main arguments for it are it's comfortable and it rides nice and it's easily repairable if you do happen to break it. And there's something to it. I like it as a material to work with, and I like it as a material to ride. So that's what I've stuck with. I'm not against any other material, but it's the one that I prefer. So.
Yeah. Well, there's also great satisfaction. They're very, I can't think of the word right now. You must have great satisfaction in working with your hands, creating bikes and going out and riding them and seeing, it's very binary. You have nothing, you have a box of tubes, and then through sweat and work and artistry, you create the most efficient machine that a human can power themselves.
Right. And, I think that's compelling for sure. I think bicycles in general are just pretty damn cool because of exactly what you said. It's the most efficient vehicle humanity ever devised for moving around. And yeah, there's a definite satisfaction to creating the thing from scratch. And, more importantly to me is what the customer gets out of it, because, seeing somebody get something that actually fits them for the first time, because that's a big reason why people will buy a custom bike, is because a lot of people don't fit on stock stuff, or they're tall. Yeah, Caroline. Yep. Short people problems, tall people problems, long leg problems, short leg problems, back injury problems, one leg longer than the other, you name it. Humanity is not just a bunch of like fat part of the bell curve people. So it's pretty nice to be able to provide something that fits really well and does exactly what the person wants, because that's the other thing that people like me or Paul Sadoff or Rick Hunter or you name it provide is, if you want a road bike that you can also put a rear rack on, nothing has rack mounts, basically. You go buy a Trek Madone, it's an amazing bike, you're not gonna be able to put a rear rack on it, really, a good one at least. So, you can, it's one of the niches that people like me fill, is, you want something slightly weird, or you want to do a lot of things well, or you want this, this braze on here for this reason. That's sort of why people like me exist.
So what's like the coolest bike then that you've built, or like your favorite bike or type of bike that you've built?
So that's a tough one. My favorite bikes I've made for myself have been, I made this weird cruiser for myself a few years ago that I really like, which I then gave to Travis, who works for Paul Components.
And paint job on that one.
What's that?
The paint
job.
Oh,
no, that's actually a bike I made for him, the black one.
okay.
But there's a yellow one he's been riding too. If you look at his Instagram, there's a yellow bike, and that's this weird cruiser I made.
We'll have to put up Travis's Instagram handle here on,
Yeah.
so we can go look at it.
Definitely.
So yeah, as far as my own stuff, it's kind of the weirder stuff I've made, and just stuff that
Okay, well, I'll narrow it down. I'll narrow it down for you. Your 2017 Grindero bike. Tell me about the catalyst behind that, the inspiration for you to create the super slack sled that you dragged across the entire Grindero course to set the fastest time down.
Oh yeah, that bike.
Tell us a story behind that, because this is an anecdote that I heard.
Actually, I want to finish Caroline's question first.
Okay, sorry, I didn't.
And then I'll get back to it. No, because her question's good, because I think that a lot of the meaning in what I do is in providing something for people who, are outside of the norm as far as cyclists go. And my favorite bikes that I've made have been the ones that have had the biggest effect on people. I know I'm not curing cancer here or anything, but when you watch friends who've been I have a couple friends I've made bikes for who've been pretty overweight and struggled with eating issues their whole lives, and watching them find something that really changes their life for the better, like that's important to me. Those are my favorite bikes, really, is the ones that actually help people on some level to be healthier and happier. So back to your question about that bike, I didn't even remember that was 2017. You said 2017 Grindero. I'm going, I don't even remember what bike I rode that year.
Well, the anecdote was brought up a couple of times by a few different people. So.
Oh, funny. So that, since I moved to Quincy about 4 years ago, I don't really race anymore, and I'm much more out of shape than I've been, which is fine with me. But I definitely don't have any sort of top end speed anymore because I've been riding different things and riding things with motors, and I haven't been competitive. So that day I knew that my only shot, there's 4 stages in the race. One of them's a hill climb. One of them is a pretty groomer, pretty flat, kind of sketchy gravel downhill. And then there's a paved rolling flat time trial. And then there's a downhill single track section. I knew the only, this, and for those who don't know the race, it happens in my backyard. It's that direction. Not that means anything to all you watching, but I thought I might be able to win the last stage if I rode my mountain bike, because there's some really, really good descenders there. But I knew that the pros would all be on gravel bikes because they wanted to win the whole thing, or on a light hardtail. And at that point, I had a 650B 2.8 tire, so it's B plus bike with a 160 millimeter fork on it, and it was something like 30 pounds. And I rode 80 miles. I hauled it around for 80 miles for the last 2, or no, I can't remember how long the section is. 3.5.
And how many thousand feet of climbing was it?
It was like 8,000 feet.
I think it's 8K, Caroline. Does that seem right?
I think it's 60 miles and like 8,000 feet.
Yeah,
But
60 miles.
The other thing that you need to mention here too is you won that segment, and your girlfriend won that segment too.
Yep.
Well, he didn't get there yet. He didn't tell us he won it yet. Spoiler.
I appreciate that. So yeah, I was like, well, I'm just going to drag this thing around and try to win the last section because I thought I might be able to. And I did. And then Sarah won the women's. So that was pretty cool. And she was on a bike I made as well. She was on her mountain bike. She was on 650B, 144 hardtail with 2.4s on it. Pretty normal mountain bike. I was definitely hauling the pig around that day. But it was what I had, and it was certainly effective for the last, just under 9 minutes. So, I didn't have a snowball's chance in hell at anything else. So, play to your strengths when you have to.
But the bike itself, besides having big wheels and big travel, from what I hear, it was super slack. It was a big old sled, right?
Yeah, it's 65 head, which that's what works up here. I mean, that's the thing is, a lot of the riding here, like, I don't expect anybody to know where Quincy is. It's the middle of nowhere, but basically we're about an hour and 20 minutes north of Truckee. And so that puts us about an hour and a quarter from Downeyville. There's another place close by here called the Lakes Basin that's really, really rocky. So the riding here, a big bike that's slack and has a short stem, they work really, really well here. It's not necessarily the right bike for everywhere, but for here, the bike I'm currently riding is a full suspension bike I made that is also 65 head, 160 in the front and 130 in the rear. And actually that bike that I won the Grindero section on, I sold to my friend Kyle, who makes really nice bike packing bags in San Francisco. He bike tours the hell out of that thing. He rides it all over the place. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we love that you live up there in Quincy, but let's bring it back down to Marin County for a second. If you came back down here, say the virus is all gone and you could get a posse of your fellows, we'll say Drew Landers and George Hope, just to name a couple at random. What would be the first thing you'd want to hit? And keep in mind, there's people watching.
Yeah. Rock Springs, Lagunitas Road, and
really
Rocky Ridge, and Repack, and Old V, probably, because that's one of the things about having grown up in Marin is you end up riding a lot of fire roads because they're what's legal. So there's a distinct skill set and a pretty interesting, fun aspect to trying to go fast on fire roads as opposed to just trying to go fast on single track. So yeah, that's when I do come down there, which isn't all that often these days. I often just go ride down Repacks. You can do it in an hour from town if you just pedal up the road. So
That's really interesting that you would list a bunch of fire roads as your first thing to hit.
Well, it's what you're allowed to do. So and Tamarancho is fun and China Camp's fun, but it's I'd rather go responsibly fast down Rock Springs.
Yeah,
entertaining.
You like to get sideways on those counter steering sliding turns.
Yeah, it's entertaining.
On a cross bike or on a mountain bike?
Mountain bike, yeah. I mean, I understand that the gravel scene there has exploded, and the Saturday Java Hut ride is now a gravel ride or something.
That's me. I'm the one who sends out the email.
Yeah, can I get to blame you for that?
Sure, you betcha.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing about Marin County is obviously the dirt road riding is incredible. I mean, I was thinking, Caroline, to your question, I was thinking about particularly given my current lack of fitness, what's most entertaining right now is when it's pointed down. So
I'm just thinking that's like my introduction to Marin riding, like long Marin rides was with you and a bunch of other people, but doing these, epic up Old Railroad, all over the headlands on gravel, on cyclocross bikes, not gravel bikes.
35 mil tires and cantilevers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they still work.
I still curse you for selling me those Paul Mayfack reproductions that were only good for slicing my leg when I was jumping on the bike. And
those were actually those were some of the very first ones of those.
Yes, I know. Very, very pliant.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Marin riding a little bit more, though, because it is more than just a single track. There's been a lot of effort from different organizations, including MCBC, to open up Azalea Hill. Liberty's actually going to get opened up. There's going to be, there's
Liberty Gulch is going to get opened up?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah, I was out hiking there last week and saw soils engineers doing surveys and stuff. So there's a lot of really good stuff happening. Yeah, Bill's Trail just opened up.
I heard that.
After a lot of work. So that brings access to people. That's really interesting. So there is a lot of great riding on the surface streets, but also a lot of dirt roads. Like the Levees ride is the most popular ride we do for the gravel group.
Oh, that like North Marin, like up by Novato, all that stuff?
Between China Camp and Novato's China Camp, which is Washburn or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember. I kind of know that zone, but I can't say I've really spent much time on those roads other than a little bit of wandering once or twice. So I spend most of my time on the mountain.
Yeah, I spend most of my time on the mountain too, but the adventure bikes have really opened up so many great things in the county that we would pass up. We wouldn't ride them on our mountain bikes because it'd be boring.
Right.
And too underbiked if you're on your road bike, even though you can ride railroad on your road bike, no problem.
Sure.
But these adventure bikes are really opening things up for us. So.
Yeah, and just the ability to get away from the cars, in a place where there's as many people as there are in the Bay Area. It's pretty nice to actually get away from the cars and.
Well, that was actually the genesis for the Saturday Java Hut ride, getting a separate crew for gravel, because the traffic through Samuel P. Taylor Park on the weekends can be insane.
Yeah,
and the pack had gotten so big on the road that we're like, hey, you know what we could do? We could also ride Cross Marin Trail through the forest and then hit Jewel, ride a Lima, go out to Vision, do Shoemaker and see like 10 cars the whole day.
Right, and actually be able to ride next to your friends and talk to them and not fear for your life.
Yeah. Exactly. So cover me, Caroline. I've just had a brain freeze.
You got notes there, Christopher?
Too many things to talk about.
I do actually, but they're really scrambled.
No, well, yeah, I guess. So I want to back up to one thing you said, because you just said you made a full suspension for yourself. And that's something you hear a lot from custom frame builders making a full suspension bike.
Right. There's good reason for that. it's a lot of work. I made it for myself because my back was tired of trying to go fast in really rocky places on hardtails. And I had owned Santa Cruzes in the past because I have a friend there and I've got one in work trade. And again, nothing against bikes that aren't steel. I rode and loved my carbon Santa Cruzes I had. But my body was tired of it, tired of having hardtail, tired of trying to go really fast in really rocky places. So I made myself a pretty basic single pivot bike. It's pretty decent. I don't think I'll ever make them for sale. It's kind of more work than it's probably worth. There has been a resurgence in steel full suspension bikes, particularly coming out of England. The material still rides nice. You know, it's a little heavier, but on the mountain bike side, people don't think that much about weight anymore, at least unless you're, you know, World Cup XC or cross-country racing. There's a lot of people riding around on 30-pound bikes now.
I mean,
Which can confirm.
Does 26 pounds. It's not a light hardtail, but I can ride that thing down anything.
Right. Yeah, that Lobster you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bike's sweet. Like, and that's a bike that you get. Yeah, you can go fast and downhill on it because
I raced downhill on it last year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember watching you go by. Yeah, I was sitting in the woods on my motorcycle watching people.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'd do downhill on a hardtail again. No, that was
Not the best idea, probably.
One time.
achievable, but rough.
Yeah.
Hey, we're running short on time here. I want to keep going a little bit though, and talk about you know, what's really happening all over the place with the virus and how it's changed things. You live up in the La Sierra now. How's that affected your riding? And if somebody was going to come up there, should we stay home or should we come up to La Sierra if we manage to isolate? How do you feel about it up there, being up in the hills?
Well, I live in Plumas County. The county had 4 cases of COVID until about 5 weeks ago, maybe, and now we're up to 19, which probably means there's 190 with all the asymptomatic stuff that seems to be talked about. There have been people coming here, and I have mixed feelings about it. If whether or not you're coming here or anywhere else, the only responsible thing, in my opinion, is to be self-contained and minimize your exposure to the population. And yeah, I mean, really stay close to home. If you are going to go somewhere, be respectful, wear your damn mask, and, you know, keep your distance. Particularly in places, you know, places like here. Downeyville's a great example. You know, Downeyville is the next county over. It's Sierra County. It's one of the poorest counties in the state. Downeyville is something like 200 full-time residents. They're almost all elderly, and they almost all have health issues. So, you know, I want to caution people against, you know, I have to go to Downeyville and barge the scene. And, you know, I've seen some not great behavior already, particularly here in town, people shuttling on Mount Huff real disrespectfully, driving real fast. And I think a lot of people just aren't taking it seriously. So if you are going to travel, please be respectful to tiny communities. You know, places like Quincy and places like Downeyville, and Quincy's much bigger than Downeyville, but we're still rural and we still have, you know, not the most amazing healthcare here. There's a lot of elderly people. There's a lot of people with health issues. Think before you come, and if you're going to, please be as self-contained as possible.
Yeah,
I can't
absolutely.
tell anybody that they can't, but, you know.
Yeah. No, that's sage advice, because, you know, we're expected to isolate, and some people have gotten a bit cabin feverish, and so they head for the hills where it's all cabins. But when you leave town, don't leave your mask and leave your hand sanitizer behind. You know,
Right.
take your manners.
Behind.
Yeah, take your manners, take your consideration for others, and always tread lightly. And
yeah, and I think this is a good segue into signing off. This is a fundraiser for COVID relief in Marin County, benefiting Canal Alliance and West Marin Senior Services. So I go onto our website again, marinbike.org/lostsummer, and sign up for that drawing to enter to win a Specialized Diverge Pro Carbon. It's a $7,000 bike donated by
$7,000 2021 model. It's equipped with SRAM Eagle Axis, Revol wheels. It's a well-built adventure bike. It's got a swap box on it. It's a beautiful reddish orange. It's a fantastic bike. Thank you, Mike's Bikes, for contributing that.
Yeah, so again, please support us, support COVID relief in the area. Definitely a lot of people still need support, especially with this resurgent. You know, be respectful, be giving if you can. Again, thanks to our sponsors, Dolan Lawn Firm, Bay Area Bicycle Law, the New Wheel, and Marin Cyclists for supporting this series. Easton and Velocio and or not are also donating prizes to the giveaway. So there's multiple chances to win if you go on and buy tickets to support MTBC and COVID relief.
Yeah, that said, thank you, Caroline. Next week, our interviewees are the Easton Overland team. All your teammates, Caroline, that's the team that you race for on gravel and mountain. After them will be Laura and Ted King, formerly of Marin County. Now they moved to Vermont, also pro adventure riders. We've got a lot more to come. We appreciate you signing in. Again, please contribute to Marin County Bicycle Coalition. That gets you an entry. Every $10 contributed gets you an entry into the giveaway to win that bike, other prizes from Velocio, Easton, or not bicycles, a lot of great stuff. And more importantly, contributes to the efforts made by the coalition, also to the Canal Alliance and Marin Senior Services. And we really appreciate that. Please tell your friends about what you saw here today. This will be available on Facebook to watch the video. And also you'll find a link for the YouTube version on Marin County Bicycle Coalition's website, which again is marinbike.org/Lost Summer. I'd like to thank our guest today, Cameron Falconer. You're awesome. What's your website?
My website is falconercycles.com. Best place to see what I do is really my Instagram, and that is @coffeeandeggs, all one word. And yeah, you can find my contact is info@falconercycles.com.
And we'll link to some of the bikes that we talked about that Cameron's built, because they're amazing.
Thanks, Caroline.
Well, Cameron, you're amazing. Thanks for helping me get introduced to Marin County cycling. Apparently you had the same effect on Caroline, and appreciate you sitting down with us today. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to see you both. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. We're out.